From chaos to clarity. A different kind of survival story. Narrated and written by Stan Oldman. The clock ticked with maddening precision. Each chime marked my descent from exuberance to despair. My doctor's face, faintly distorted by the light, delivered a prognosis that felt like information and more like a verdict. A 2 to 4% chance of surviving the year. Glioblastoma Multiforme, grade 4, the most aggressive form of brain cancer. In that sterile room, life as I knew it ended. It was the second time I'd heard those words, the same verdict, years apart. But I did not then, not yet. There was a moment when I found myself facing the oldest question of all. Not whether to be, but how to live once you have looked at death and stayed. Faced with what seemed to be certainty of my demise, I did something that ran counter to the culture of medicine I had always trusted. I questioned the numbers. I did not deny the science. I challenged the narrowness of its lens, though. A statistic is not a person. A prognosis is not prophecy. I am an organism. And that's the point that we miss. The medical model told me I was nearing the end. But I was not interested in being managed. I wanted to lead myself. So I began to build a new framework for healing, not from magical thinking, but from systems thinking. I mapped my body as an ecosystem, the gut, the brain, the immune system, the interplay of food, sleep, movement, and belief. I studied epigenetics, microbiome diversity, and inflammation pathways, and even what medicine too often dismisses, the placebo effect, not as an illusion, but as evidence that belief itself is a biological signal. One of my guiding principles became what I call planning for thriving. I did not plan for the worst. I planned for the fight. I wrote a daily structure that included visualization, nutrition, rest, and above all, a belief that I still had a purpose. Healing, I discovered, is not linear. It's not a mechanical sequence of cause and effect, but an emergent process, dynamic and adaptive. The more I stepped into my own agency, the more alive I felt. Having lived and studied in Britain earlier in my career, I had always admired the country's quiet pragmatism, its ability to hold doubt and determination in the same breath. That perspective helped me approach healing not as faith or defiance, but as a balance of both. And then I started feeling better. This is not a miracle story in my book. It's a story about reclaiming authorship. I worked with medicine, but on my own terms. I questioned, I listened, adapted, and led. Years later, I'm still here, not because I ignored the odds, but because I refused to be imprisoned by them. We are taught that healing comes from the outside, from an expert, a pill, a protocol. But real healing begins when we turn inward, when we decide not merely to survive, but to participate in our own process. If I had listened blindly, I would not be writing this article or reading this to you. But I listened carefully and then acted with passion for a new version of myself. Version 2.0.